All right. So anyway, so you said you picked up some vinyl recently, or what's going on with that?
I sure did, man. Like before, I was really big into cards and stuff. Uh, Beforehand, I was in a community called the Vinyl Community, and I love records. I love music. So I don't know about you, Jason, but like music is the soundtrack to our lives. So I pulled some vinyl that I got recently and some classics and stuff, and thought maybe I'd show them a little bit and maybe just
Sure,
try something different, see how people respond
sure.
to music.
Yeah, I love music. It's funny you say that because I feel like nowadays, physical media, it just seems like, it's not a thing. Now, I have
Right.
heard records have taken off again. It's huge.
Yeah.
But there's only certain types of people who really buy vinyl because almost, I think that's like a certain, type of person who's buying vinyl, Either you got the
Sure.
collector types or the people who grew up with it or who like it. But I mean,
Mhm.
everything's about downloads and
Yeah.
views and all that stuff. So
Oh yeah.
I'm definitely interested to see what you picked up and see if we have similar tastes or, what the situation is. Because growing up, back when it wasn't cool to have vinyl, I
Right.
had a huge vinyl collection at my parents' house when I was growing up, and
Wow.
we had a bunch of local record shops in Louisville, Kentucky, where I'm from, and
Okay.
so every single weekend, once I got out of my high school, me and a bunch of buddies would hop in my car. We'd drive across the bridge to Louisville, Kentucky, because I'm from Southern Indiana, and we'd
Nice.
hit up Ear Ecstasy, Ground Zero, Electric Ladyland, all these like local record shops. So
Wow.
I'm definitely interested. I don't ever talk about it because it's previous videos really doesn't make sense. But since you said
Right.
let's do something different, I'm interested. Let's see what you do. Let's see that thing that you do.
All right, man. Well,
All right,
I'm going
let's
to
see it.
start off and show probably a classic that we could probably vibe on. Uh, you know, I'm catching maybe college vibes or whatever, but this album is a must. If you're going to collect records like you collect cards, a lot of these records, some of them have a lot of value and stuff. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and it's fun because sure you can have your Spotify, you can have your streaming services, but the cool thing is with vinyl, man, you really get hands on. You get to see the artwork, you get to see the lyrics.
Yes,
Um, you don't have to go to some website or whatever, but you get to see the effort that was really kind of put into this. And
sure.
so I thought it'd be kind of cool to just kind of show these off. So one of the classic ones, man, Led Zeppelin 2.
Led Zeppelin, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Led Zeppelin. I
Yeah,
remember I remember having the original back in the day. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Now,
This
are
is
those
an
Led
original
Zeppelin? Is
press.
that a double vinyl?
It's not double, but it is a double gatefold.
Ah,
So,
that is so
you got,
epic.
man, this is, I mean, this smells old, dude. This smells like your grandparents' basement, Uh, and
Nice.
this is actually the real deal. This isn't a repress. This is actually an original from 1969, and and you got songs like "Whole Lot of Love," um, gosh, "Ramble On," "Bring It On Home." Yeah,
That's
so
awesome, dude.
and I'm not going to do this with every record, but I mean, look how awesome, man, that Atlantic
I mean,
label is.
that is
That's
awesome, dude.
yeah, that's
I,
probably one of my favorite albums that I do own. It's not something I really talk about much anymore because, you know, it could be like with anything else that you collect. Once you reach a certain pinnacle in that career or hobby, you look for other things to collect or do. It's we all have that
sure.
weird EDD thing. As far as like collecting, if it's not one thing, it's another. You have
Right.
guys that do the Pokemon thing or whatever and collect cards and yeah. So
Pika, 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 pika. Right.
exactly. My boy's getting into it. Now, since we're
Um,
about the same age, Jason, you cannot forget this one right here. You know, yes, that's
yeah,
right.
dude. Michael Jackson's
This,
Thriller, baby.
yeah, and I mean every song is good. And I don't know if you know this, but in the song "Beat It," do you know who plays the guitar solo?
Who played the guitar solo and beat it? let's go with Paul McCartney.
No, but he is on the song "The Lady Is" or "The Girl Is Mine." Yeah,
Right.
with Paul McCartney.
Who played the guitar solo?
Eddie Van Halen.
Eddie Van Halen. Nice.
Makes sense now when you go back and listen to it, you'll be like, yeah, that was Eddie Van Halen. So one of my guilty pleasures of the 80s, man, while we're here talking about the 80s, man, thought maybe we would talk about another band that's near and dear to my heart.
Oh, dude, Wham, man, George Michael.
Yeah. And no matter what anybody says, it doesn't matter how cheesy the band was, man, you can't deny that George Michael had some pipes. Dude could sing.
Oh, yeah, dude.
And so, you know, you have Wake Me Up Before You Go, Everything She Wants, Careless Whisper, of course. My favorite was a song called Credit Card Baby because it's still relevant in today's world.
Oh, yeah.
Girls taking your credit
card. Man, I always think of Wham's song, Last Christmas I Gave You My Whatever, you know? I love that. I love that. So that's one of my favorite Christmas songs. Yes. And I don't know if you've ever seen this movie. I think it's called Music and Lyrics. Have you ever seen it? With Hugh Grant. I think it's Hugh Grant and Drew Barrymore. But basically Hugh Grant plays like a George Michael character. He had an 80s band, 80s duo band from England, and they were super popular, and then he fell out of favor, and they're trying to he's trying to recapture his like, you know, his spark again for the industry like 30 years later. But he got real popular on a song called Pop Goes My Heart. And that song was made in like 2005 or whatever that movie came out. And that if you could inject that song in like 1985, you would not even know it was made 30 plus years later. It is so like George Michael, like Wham. It was amazing. I recommend when we get off of here, just put in YouTube, Pop Goes My Heart. And it's just like, you're like, did this song come out in like 84? Like, how did I miss it? And it came out like 2005. It just captures the 80s pop music perfectly.
I love that, man. I love it when it's a song. And, you know, there's even a couple of artists, like, I don't even know the name of the song, but I'll listen to, like, the NPR radio station here. And they play a John Mayer song, and I'm not a fan of John Mayer at all. Sure. But, like, his latest album has that 80s, like, vibe to it, you know? And so, yeah, and yes, I did have the Breakfast Club soundtrack, Henry. Yes, because the Smiths are on it, and I had that for many, many years.
Yeah, and also another guy who plays music that's modern, but it has like a real big 80s like vibe in it is Bruno Mars. I felt like
I
think I like Bruno Mars has a lot of 80s like you know, feel to it. I mean, Lady Gaga kind of has that vibe a lot too with some of her music. So you know, I'm a big sucker for any synthesizers and any kind of just like, you know, just rock solo, guitar solos, and just kind of this, you know, real 80s vibe stuff.
Well, then it's amazing that you actually said that, because next up, Depeche Mode, man.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You can't
Depeche Mode, dude.
Without Depeche Mode. I mean, gosh, man. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. And it's our time collecting cards. Okay, very nice. Hey, you guys. Hey, and the Goonies too, man. I actually showed that to my boy last week, and that movie is absolutely fantastic. Still to this day. But yeah, man, Depeche Mode. There's so many. Gosh, every album, I think, in my opinion, and even in the '80s, a lot of their music is, to me, is still ahead of its time. But I think if I ever had to pick my favorite all-time song of all time, it has to be "Enjoy the Silence." So, yeah, I'm a big Depeche Mode fan, and also another band that I've been getting into that's from the '80s. They used to open up for Depeche Mode back in the day as a New York band called Book of Love. They did a song called Roses. They did the song "I Touch Roses" and "Boy." And man, I can't get enough of these guys. And this lady right here, Lauren Roselli, she actually makes an appearance in the 1992 movie Silence of the Lambs. So I want to say there's a character where Jodie Foster knocks on the door and a lady answers, and it's actually her. So she got into acting after the whole '80s things. So yeah, man. If you really, really want to get even deeper into the '80s with that synth sound, right here, man. Book of Love.
Okay, I'll have to check it out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Now
man.
let me ask you this: while you're pulling out, while you're whipping it out, all these records here. Let me ask you this: as a vinyl collector, I don't know, like you said, you've been doing it for a while, and obviously maybe this has been like 1 year or 20 years, but there's there's a premium, so to speak, on like colored vinyl and things like that. Do you ever look for that kind of thing, or you're just like that? I don't really care about the gimmicks. I just want the music.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's when it comes down to it, bare bones, it's all about the music. And you
Right.
want to make sure that, it's cool. Sure, if you have colored vinyl, I've actually got one I was going to show off here here in a little bit. But it's not. I mean, it's cool to have a collector's piece, but it's not detrimental to the set. So
It's
or to
like
my
collecting
collection.
sports cards. It's like, I got the rookie card, but I can get the numbered rookie card or the short print or whatever. That's cool too. But if I have the rookie card, I'm fine. It's like
Right.
if I got the record, I'm good. If I get
Exactly.
if I get the variation or whatever, then that's cool too. But I'm not gonna spend all my money on that one record when I can get the regular record for half the cost or whatever.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean,
Sure.
now I see a lot of guys out there doing like the rainbows and stuff like that, and it's like that's cool. That definitely takes a lot of time, a lot of patience, and I'm very OCD. I just don't think of myself as being in that realm of OCD sometimes, so I have to watch myself.
Now, are you gonna be getting Macho Man Randy Savage's record from the '90s when he did that rap? When he was doing the rap from like.
It's actually on Spotify.
Oh, okay.
And I have listened to it.
Oh, nice. But the one thing I like about records, and I know you'll probably you can also speak to this. Anybody who enjoys records is the one thing I've noticed also is that what people used to complain about, like the pops and cracks of the record and all that kind of stuff, which I think it gives it ambiance. I enjoy that feeling. It feels it feels like a more of like an intimate experience with the music. Where it used to be people used to use that as like a negative. But now, like I said, people go back to that, and and our records are so clean now and all that. You probably don't really have that same experience. But to me, it kind of like tells me it has a life, like it had a life, and to me, those things are almost pluses than negatives.
Right. Yeah, it's so hard to explain because I don't have the best record player in the world. So yeah, sure. I do hear pops and cracks or whatever, but I got a little bottle that I put together. It's got some isopropyl alcohol, a little bit of Dawn soap, that will you can spray on the record and kind of dust it off and make sure that some of those particles are clean. Also keep a little bitty can air to spray off the needle if I feel like too much dust is getting on there. So you can do Nintendo style. Absolutely, you can do that. So I do it whenever I get a chance, and I can really just kind of sit back and just kind of indulge myself in it. It's not something I'm able to do all the time now, but if I can get one side of a record in like every once in a while, I'm good, man. I'm good. Spotify the rest or whatever, but I love the artwork. I love the way that they look. It's just and it's something that I grew up with. So something I always fall back on. It always reminds me of good times.
Yeah, man. Like for me, it's like a record player is like an aesthetic thing. It has it has this like when it feels so like what's the word I'm looking for? Right? It has like this like feeling of like you have a feeling of
euphoria,
like nostalgia. There's a part of like nostalgia, but it's like it's like satisfying to put a record down on a record player, to put the arm of the record or the needle on the record, and then just to listen to it. I just like that, and it plays through the whole record, and then it flips over, or you flip it over depending on the setup you have. And I just really like that. I love that feeling, and it's something that again, you're not going to experience that with listening to on an iPhone, iPad, a playlist on Spotify or whatever. I understand there's parts of that who people like too. I get it, but I do enjoy, like I said, the look of it. I don't know how your setup is, and I need to get a better setup. But I like how my record player set up, and then like have them on records where I can just look at them and like pull them out and just like put them on the record player and just it's like having a DVD or Blu-ray collection. It's just something to that. So.
Yep. I'll pull a couple of them out and just kind of line them up and be like, okay, I'm going to do this now. Or,
sure.
It's just kind of fun to be intimate with your music like that and just, create something, some kind of new weird memory, in your head. Like, man, you remember that time back in November when I was talking with Jason Payne, Zombie Collector, and we were listening to some Smiths, and then we went, always something to fall back on.
Have you ever seen? That's what I'm talking about. Like, have you seen like movies like High Fidelity or like those movies where they talk about music and record stores or like Empire Records? And I just love stuff like that where it's like very much a part of like if you grew up in the '90s, that's like such a part of our life. I feel like.
Yes, absolutely. And it's so funny you mentioned Empire Records, because what was the big song off that album? It was the Jim Blossoms, Till I Hear It From You.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
So a few years back, they were playing at the House of Blues in Dallas, and my buddy had an extra ticket, and I got to go. And afterwards, we always try to meet the bands and stuff. We actually got to meet Robin, the lead singer from the Jim Blossoms. And man, dude, first thing I did, I was like, dude, thank you so much for doing that song. I'm putting it on Empire Records because, man, that song was like on every mixtape that I would make on a cassette tape.
Exactly, dude. Well, the crazy thing is like there was a handful of, and like I guess we'll get to, I'll go ahead and tell you about this. Now I know you were showing me like 70s rock and you're showing 80s rock and you're showing specific bands, and then we'll also talk. But we're alluding to this, and this is what as I've gotten older, I've enjoyed more because I'm such a movie fan. I've been enjoying going through and getting vinyl soundtracks of movies that I grew up watching, or that they now put them out on record because maybe back in the day, I guess that it was either too expensive or just wasn't on the radar. But like, think about like Soul Asylum with Clerks. I mean, like, I love that soundtrack from Clerks from like 95 or 94 when it came out.
Having Westwood was on it. Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's so many great songs. And we talk about High Fidelity. Grosse Pointe Blank was another great movie with a great soundtrack. I mean, there are so many great 90s movies we're talking about. Empire Records. It's just, here we go with it. My phone doing that thing. That thing that it does. It's ridiculous. So go ahead and keep talking. You go ahead and talk, and I'll try to get out of this and get back in.
All right. So another classic 80s album, man. You've got to have, in that whole synth realm or whatever, The Cure, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me.
Oh,
yeah, man. This, I love The Cure. So who else doesn't love The Cure? I mean, how can you not love The Cure? How can you not love bands like New Order or the Smiths? Wesker Griff, shout out to you, man. So another 80s band. I hope you guys are enjoying this show here. We are waiting for Jason to come back, so I'm going to hijack this for just a moment and just show off this, man. This is an original from 1986, the Beastie Boys, Licensed to Ill. So I hope you guys are check some of these bands out, whether you got Spotify or streaming services, or if you're a vinyl collector yourself. This is just something that I like to do on the side other than collecting cards. So let's check this out. Now, if you're into the 90s hip-hop stuff, 90s hip-hop, man, that's whenever things came together, too. You had the melding of the 80s and the 90s, so you had a little bit of the pop, and then all of a sudden this dude just tore down the walls. He broke down every stereotype and went full gangster on us. And I'm talking about the wonderful, lovable, huggable Dr. Dre. Yeah.
Dr. Dre, D-R-E.
Yes. And it's kind of funny too. I actually have from 1988 the original pressing. It's down there somewhere. We'll have to show it on another video. I have the original Easy Does It on vinyl that I picked up many years ago at a half price books. And whenever I opened it up, there is like a promotional 8x10 photo, black and white photo of NWA in there, and they're all, they all had the Jerry curl and the necklaces and
Nice.
stuff, and I'm just like, bonus, man, this is worth the price alone. You know
For
what I
sure.
mean? So, and then I saw a repressing of it the other day, and they were wanting $30, and I'm just like, I bet it doesn't have the promo in it.
I bet it does not. That is legit, dude.
Let's talk about some 90s, man. Who were some of your favorite bands in the 90s? I'm curious to know.
So the 90s for me was quite different because I started out like enjoying New Jack Swing music from New York.
Sure, yeah.
And a lot of that music I like coming from there. And then in the mid 90s, I started really switching over to like grunge, alternative.
Yes. Absolutely.
So it was a weird mix for me. And then I liked the hip hop back in the day. Yep. So, I mean, I'll be listening to stuff like, let me think about this. So, you have the typical stuff like Nirvana, but I'm also listening to, Tupac. I'm listening to Wu-Tang Clan. I'm listening to, some of the other big guys. There's so many, but Soundgarden.
Yes.
Pearl Jam, Nirvana, like I said.
Yep.
I listen to Alice in Chains.
Right.
Live.
Oh.
So what about you?
Yeah. Man, at that time, I was going through a transition like you were, where I was getting a little bit tired of the whole hip hop thing. I did love it. I did love it. I would say by 93, I was kind of worn out by it. And I was, I knew who Nirvana was and Soundgarden, and I was listening to them a little bit. But, I still missed hip hop in a way. And there was only one band that was able to build that bridge for me in between my love for rock and for hip hop. And this
I already know where you're going.
Man. The Beastie Boys, Ill Communication, man.
Yes.
So, and the
is
cool
that,
thing
is that License to Ill? What is that? Sabotage?
Yeah, Ill Communication. Yeah, and let me see here. I did show it a moment ago. I also have this one as well, man. This is an original. License to Ill. Yeah.
Listen, now, I don't know. It's a sabotage. Listen,
that's right.
It's a sabotage.
Now, you ever notice something funny about this?
What?
If you read this backwards, what does it say?
Let me see here. Was it 3MTA3?
Eat me.
Oh, eat me.
They did it as a joke, man.
Yeah.
I never knew about that until a couple of years ago. I always think that's so
hilarious.
Funny. Yeah.
I can barely make it out. Sorry, I have my old man eyes.
Oh, dude, no worries, man. Yeah, man. This right here, dude, this album, DJ Hurricane on the turntables, and you had Money Mark on the keyboards. These guys went full-fledged, not only going back to their punk roots, but also, with that hip-hop flavor and everything. They were really, really creating something special during this time. And this album is just every bit of awesome that you can expect. Of course, you had like Sabotage, Sure Shot.
Does that have Intergalactic on it, right?
I'm sorry?
Does that have Intergalactic on it?
No, that was on the Hello Nasty album.
Oh, Hello Nasty. Okay.
Yeah, that was on the 98 release. But the cool thing is, too, is that, I was a huge basketball fan. And during that time, too, they're making references about John Starks and from the New York Knicks. And they're talking about Bill Laimbeer. They got a whole song about Bill Laimbeer cutting people and being a jerk, on this album.
Right.
But, you really got to listen for it and talk about Patrick Ewing and their love for the Knicks. So, I was just like, dude, that's so awesome, man. Just an awesome album, man. So I absolutely love these guys. Always have, always will.
So here's a thing you may or may not be aware of, dude.
Sure.
So the Beastie Boys, as you know, they were like an alternative hip hop that, kind of like a mix of the two, right?
Right.
So they started a label in the 90s called Grand Royal Records. Have you seen it?
Yep. Oh, yeah. It's right here
So
on the.
they're really big about bringing over talent from around the world, especially Japan.
Right, like Sean
Nice. There
Lennon.
it is.
Yeah, they had like a Sean Lennon on their label, and
Sean Lennon, but they had like Buffalo Daughter, Butter Away. There's a bunch of Japanese groups, Chibomato. And
yep,
that's how I got turned on to a lot of Japanese like shoegaze music and like
yes,
there's a bunch of weird Japanese like atmospheric type of music that you never would have heard in America. And
right,
I Grand Royal was the gateway drug for that.
right, right.
So that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. I used to have a Grand
Yeah, I got a
Royal
bunch of
shirt.
Sean Lennon records from them back in the day.
Yeah, man. The Beastie Boys were definitely doing something. They were really tapped in into a consciousness that, you know, to be honest, made this world better, man. If you think about it, they were all inclusive, and at that time, I believe MCA had gone fully Buddhist and everything, and they were starting these concerts in the summer, to the Tibetan freedom concerts and stuff. So,
Yes.
MCA was a humanitarian in his own right, and the Beastie Boys they did what they did, man, and it was just unfortunate, man, because I never got to see them. I never got to see them live, and I came so close a couple of times being able to do it, but at that time, man, it just wasn't feasible, and it tears me apart still to this day because I absolutely love those guys, still do.
Yeah.
And
Beastie Boys are one of those groups I feel like they just kind of transcend.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But
and they're one of the few groups out there also that had street cred on both sides of the music industry.
Yeah, they sure did.
It was the white guys, the black guys, the rappers, the rockers. Everybody really just liked the Beastie Boys. And they were able to intermingle with both groups. It never really felt like it was anything but authentic.
Yep. And everybody knew Paul Revere. Everybody knew it. So, but one of my favorite albums that I don't have on vinyl of them is the Paul's Boutique that came out in 1989. Now, in 1989, the guys that produced that album were called the Dust Brothers. You may know them as the guys that did the soundtrack for Fight Club with Brad Pitt. So those two guys, they did that album. But in 1996, the Dust Brothers produced another fantastic album that melded alternative rock and with hip hop flavor, and that was Beck's Odelay. So,
oh man,
yeah, this whole album is good, man. I don't know if there's as many samples in this as there is on Paul's Boutique, but I mean, just every song. This is one of the very rare albums that I can listen to through and through and just not even blink an eye about it. It's just so good and weird and out there, and the beats are just sick, dude. Just absolutely sick. So, you had hits back in the day like Devil's Haircut.
I don't think there'll ever be another Beck.
Never, absolutely not. But you had hits like Devil's Haircut, The New Pollution, Jackass, Where It's At, 2 turntables and a microphone. But there's a couple of really good ones. Novocaine is freaking awesome. Lord Only Knows is like a weird kind of country-esque with hip hop kind of thrown in there. And then I really enjoyed Sissy Neck. So.
Well, the thing is that I'm sure you understand where I'm coming from with this. But the 90s encouraged people to think outside the box.
Absolutely.
To mix music, to mix genres, to mix collaborations, and to be able to incorporate that type of music and experiment in a way that you don't see anymore.
Exactly. I mean, you do, but on a scale to where it's not. I don't know how to say this without sounding like a out of touch weirdo, so I'll just be as nice as I can about it. Get off
my lawn!
Right. But there's certain elements of bands like Imagine Dragons that I really appreciate because I can kind of hear all all mixed up together with like EDM and everything else thrown in. And it's like, whoa, man, okay, cool. And that could just be a total lame example or whatever, but yeah, there's so many bands out there that are trying to, uh, I guess, can't carry that torch for what the '90s I think did, and I just don't think anybody's coming close. But again, that's one of those get off my lawn moments.
Yeah, I mean, like now I feel like, the few collaborations I come across, it's,
Yeah,
rappers who have other rappers on their
right,
song. And it's just like, all right, I
yeah,
don't find it to be very special, to be honest.
right, right.
And maybe I'm just not listening to the right stuff either. That's possible, but
Yeah,
it's just hard for me to get excited about the same type of music, except it's a different person singing. It's the same
right.
thing. It's, so.
Yeah. And I get a lot, I really enjoy the voice and the music of a guy like The Weeknd. I get
Yeah.
those Michael Jackson vibes for sure. So, he's one of the few artists that I can just he's one of those few guys, man, where I can just be like, okay, I can imagine myself in a setting and just kind of enjoying it. I know he's worked with guys like Daft Punk. That was our '90s too. So I really appreciate guys like him. But if you see him on a collaboration album with you know some other guy, it just doesn't. It feels forced almost.
Yeah.
A lot of the '90s too. Let me ask you this, man. We were talking about soundtracks earlier. There was a soundtrack in the '90s for the movie Judgment Night that I absolutely loved. Man,
Dennis
you listen
Leary,
down.
right?
I'm sorry.
Is it Dennis Leary in that? Judgment Night?
He was in that movie. Yeah, Cuba Gooding Jr. I think was in it too. Emilio Estevez, and even Everlast from House of Pain was one of the bad guys in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I really enjoyed. That's one album, man. I think that kind of also was that bridge between rock and rap, and people were just pining for it, man. You had Cypress Hill and Pearl Jam, Cypress Hill and Sonic Youth doing a song together. Booyah
Yeah,
Tribe.
Sonic Youth. Right.
Yeah, dude. And the Helmet and House of Pain song, dude. It was like metal and hip hop. And dude, whenever that song broke down to go into the rap part, dude, all your teenage angst was there front and center, man. It was just so awesome. It was an awesome time.
The one group for me that like whenever I heard the music and me and my friends, we would like pop off and we'd just be like going nuts. Was
Yeah.
Onyx Slam. It's like
Oh,
slam,
yeah.
da-da-da,
Yes.
da-da-da, and it was just was like yes. They were
Yeah.
like punching each other, and it's just like a fight.
Yeah. And they were on that soundtrack too. They had an
Yes, they
awesome
were.
album. So yeah, Onyx was awesome, man. I love them. I
Yeah.
back to F Up or whatever the name of that album was back in '92. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's a. Do you remember Naughty by Nature?
Oh yeah, OPP. Yeah, you know
Yeah,
me.
yeah. And I love the song Ghetto Bastard. That one was awesome too. But
Yeah.
apparently some of the words used in that song aren't like politically correct these days, I guess.
Right, probably.
So
Probably a lot of that music nowadays aren't.
yeah, yeah.
So, did you answer the question Henry had? What's your newest record?
Probably my newest record is
Okay. You're
this
fine,
little
bro.
lady right here, man, Jenny Lewis. Yeah.
Who's this?
How do I look, Jason?
It looks great. I love the work you had done.
Yeah, this girl just she just opened for Harry Styles on a big tour, and
Okay.
she's been around for a while. She was in another band. I can't remember the name of it right now, but she's got quite a few great songs on this album. One of them is called Red Bull and Hennessy, Rabbit Hole, Head's Gonna Roll. Those are her main singles. And also, Jenny Lewis used to be in TV and movies back in the '80s. Now, Let me
You
ask
say
you,
Jenny Lewis or Juliette Lewis?
Jenny Lewis.
Okay.
Juliette Lewis too, man. She had a band. She had a punk band too.
She had a punk band, right? I was like, I know who that is.
Do you remember a Nintendo movie called The Wizard with Fred Savage?
The Power Glove, dude.
Jenny Lewis was the girl in the movie.
Oh my gosh! Seriously?
That's her.
Nice.
Yeah. So Henry, I hope that answers your question. No, it's not Rah Rah Riot or Gautier or whatever. But there's, like I said, man, earlier, I listen to a lot of music that's on our local NPR radio. So I really, really enjoy bands like the Black Pumas. And there's a lot of bands, man, that aren't in the mainstream, but to me, man, they're so important. Sounds so good. But I would say
Let me
Black
ask
Pumas
you
is
this.
probably one of my favorites.
Have you ever heard of Bonnie Prince Billy?
No. Bonnie
Give him
Prince
a listen
Billy?
and let me know what you think. He has a couple really good songs. His videos are pretty weird. He himself looks kind of weird, like a weird cat.
Okay.
But he kind of looks like the Butcher for the Butcher the Blade.
Okay.
He looks like the Butcher kind of.
Oh, that guy, huh?
But yeah, with a big old handlebar mustache and this like bushy and all that stuff. But Bonnie Prince Billy, have you heard of Pedro the Lion?
Yes.
I like that. I like him. Then so I like a lot of the underground stuff that a lot of people don't really hear.
Right.
And you kind of have to kind of look for it.
Okay.
So if it's radio, like top 40 stuff or whatever, I'm more than likely not even in the know.
Yeah.
So it's cool to talk to people like yourself because you have a eccentric taste like me.
Sure. Yeah, you have to, man. It's so weird that you mentioned that too, because I would say over the last probably 4 or 5 years, my favorite bands have changed, and I've really this is going to sound so weird, but I've really been getting into like this industrial pop goth type music, and it's not even music that's necessarily made here in the United States. We're talking like Germany, Sweden, Austria, which one band that I absolutely adore right now is a band called Aesthetic Perfection, and they were the lead singer Daniel Graves. He is officially from Los Angeles, but he got married to a girl from Austria. They live in Austria now. But he does since the quarantine, he was doing a 12 songs in 12 months project, and very, very well done, where he blends, elements of metal or industrial type sounds, but with that gothy kind of overtone. It's really kind of it's so good. I mean, whenever a song is well done, it's well done. I don't know how else to explain it. Just like whenever you're watching a wrestler and you're like, that guy has it. It's like one of those type things, And to me, that band and another band from Sweden, I believe they're from Sweden, called Ashbury Heights. They do kind of a EDM kind of goth type thing, and but you get that feeling of Depeche Mode in there too. So all these bands are around us, man, and it's that's the one thing I love about Spotify is that you can just be like, okay, let's listen to this, let's see what kind of playlist comes out of here, and I found those bands accidentally listening to listen, and I got into their whole discography, and I'm like, where have these guys been my whole life? So I try and just give everything a shot, and being here in Texas, everybody expects you to be like a country fan or whatever. Yeah, it's not. There are some country music or alt country that I do enjoy, but it's never been my forte. But I will give anything and everything a shot if it sounds good, and definitely give it a thumbs up whenever I feel it deserves it. The Fabulous Stains.
Let me tell you, if you get a chance, there's the movie called Elizabethtown.
Okay.
And you may never have seen it, but Cameron Crowe did two different CD releases of the soundtrack.
Really?
And it has a very like just kind of like the roll down your windows and just kind of do a road trip kind of vibe.
Sure.
It's really good. It's like some bluegrass, some blues,
Okay.
some soft rock, but I highly recommend that soundtrack if you like just a nice chill experience. Just kind of makes you feel like it's a warm Sunday driving in the summer. Right. I just like that vibe.
Yes.
And it makes me think of my hometown and growing up in Indiana. So check it out if you do.
I think I will, man, because I enjoy stuff like that and just something to play and just go,
Yeah, for sure.
There's even
That's awesome. Now, did you pick up any other records?
Which one?
I mean, did you have any more you wanted to show, or you have some other stuff?
Sure. I mean, Sublime.
Sublime, nice.
Yeah, this one was a classic, man. So
that's a '90s for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And the cool thing too is that I was watching a little documentary of Santeria, how that song came about last night, and I remember reading in the liner notes that they recorded a lot of this album in Austin, Texas. One of them being in Willie Nelson's studio, and the guy at the helm of producing it was a guy named Paul Leary. Paul Leary was in the band, or is in the band, the Butthole Surfers. So, yeah. So, they tried out different kinds of amps and microphone placements and stuff around the drums, and just a very, very interesting little, like, 12-minute documentary, man. I thought it was kind of cool, and I was like, why does that dude look so familiar? And then I was like, that's Paul Leary, man. That's Paul Leary. So, yeah. And of course, the Beehole Surfers, they got kind of popular in the 90s too. So,
sure. Yeah, I remember them.
And I don't know, were you ever into metal at all?
I listen to, have you ever heard of the type of music called straight edge? Like hardcore?
Yes. Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
So when I didn't mention this when we first started talking about the kind of music I listened to in the 90s.
Yeah.
But honestly, really what I listened to in the 90s was like hardcore straight edge music.
Like,
and it was almost exclusive.
Yeah. Like Minor Threat?
Minor Threat, Strive, Snapcase, Earth Crisis, Brothers Keeper.
Okay.
I mean, I can just go on and on and on. I mean, I was Strong Arm, Overcome. I mean, it's just tons.
Dude, you ought to TTM in Mackay.
Really?
Yeah, I got him last year when the pandemic kind of happened, and he responded, signed 2 4x6 pictures that I had, and sent me a nice little note back. So, whenever I TTM too, it's kind of funny, man. Like, certain people stick to certain things, and I like to kind of go all over. If I can find an address from a musician or something like that, I'm going to try and find it. So, yeah, I think Fugazi was too, but it's very possible.
So, Golf.
Yeah.
It's been so long, and a lot of those guys, when you're young, you can say you're straight edge, but as you get older, a lot of them kind of fall off. So I don't know how hardcore it was like for the longevity of their career, but I think you're right. He started out straight edge.
Yeah.
I mean, I would go to so many shows. I don't know how it was for you in Texas, but when you got into hardcore shows, it was like a subculture of music fans.
Sure.
So they would go to local bars and like clubs, and they would be all age. So we could go if I was like 16, 17, 18, 19, whatever. And when I go to these shows all the time, and I saw them all. For like that 4 or 5 year period in high school into college, if you were popular in the 90s, then I probably saw you play in Louisville.
Yeah.
And I saw lots and lots of people getting a big old fisticuffs.
Yeah.
And these hardcore shows back in the day. It was a common occurrence. So
yeah. What was the scariest one that you ever went to that you were like, oh my God, somebody's gonna get hurt?
There was a punk band that was apparently like a neo-Nazi band or something that
Oh
showed up and
no.
played. And
Okay.
they, and straight edge is a bunch of like anti racism. They're big
Sure.
anti-hate and stuff like that.
Right.
And I don't know if this person put them on there on accident, like on the same card, but they were like all these like punk rockers with like the Doc Martens and they're like the Mohawks, and they're all these like just like I said, they're like kind of like white neo-Nazi type people, and they came to this show, and it was in I want to say Columbus, Ohio,
Okay.
and we were there with this band that we liked them from Louisville called Invictus, and
Okay. I have
that
heard of them.
that punk band opened up, and everybody was kind of together by the stage because mosh
Sure.
pit of course was a common thing,
Sure.
and all these like the punk rockers were like in this circle. They made a circle pit instead of everybody was in a pit together. They like made a circle and started
Right.
like punching people and like hitting
Right.
them and like kicking them.
Right.
And so then like all of a sudden like all the straight edge kids were like had enough of that, and it ended up being like a knockdown, drag out fight between like 20 or 30 kids on both sides of the spectrum. And I'm a lover, not a fighter, so I kind of stayed back. But it was the cops got called. It turned into a whole thing.
Right. Gosh.
And they just showed up. They didn't even say anything. Just the fact they were associated with it was enough.
Right. Right.
So, what about
Golly,
you? Did you
man.
ever see anything crazy?
I did, man. I would say, I want to say in 1999, I had a girlfriend at the time, and my brother, he had a girlfriend. My brother is, 2 grades younger than me, and I think he was a senior in high school, and I had already graduated and gone to college for a little bit, and I'll never forget, man. He was like, "Hey, man, let's go to Dallas tonight. Cannibal Corpse is in town." I'm like, "Oh, Cannibal Corpse.
Oh
I
my
remember
God,
them
Cannibal Corpse.
from the movie Ace Ventura. I believe that was them in the movie. And I'll never forget, man. They were playing this little place off of Elm Street, and Deep Elm is like right there by downtown, but it's kind of like where all the little bars and the clubs and stuff are. And they were playing this place called the Galaxy Club. As a matter of fact, you know what? I had just turned 21. That's what it was. So, like you said, man, people that were real close to the stage, they were doing the moshing. They were, I wasn't going near there. I was not. And so I was like, you know what, man, I'm 21. I'm gonna go to the bar and get a Shiner. I'm an adult now. And that's what I did, man. I went back there, and my girlfriend at the time, her and my brother's girlfriend went outside to go and smoke a cigarette outside because we were cool like that. And my brother, man, he was mixing it up in the mosh pit. So I'm standing there, like a just on the outside, just kind of watching everything. And all of a sudden, man, I see this leg like being tossed around the mosh pit, and I'm like, what? What is going on here? And so I was like, I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna have a cigarette and try to make sense of what I just saw. And so I'm like, okay, I go out there and I see my brother's girlfriend. I see my girlfriend. I'm like, man, you guys are not going to believe what I saw, man. I could have sworn I just saw a leg getting passed around in the mosh pit. And, I maybe the cops will show up, an ambulance or something. I don't know.
Right.
But I was like, I'm kind of afraid to go back in there. And so we're outside there for, probably 3-4 minutes, and I'm smoking my cigarette. And all of a sudden, man, the door just busts open. And here comes this dude like walking on stumps. And he comes out there and he sees us and he goes, man, those effers are crazy. They done stole my legs. And I'm just like, oh my God. He had both legs. I guess, I don't know what the deal was, but they were both amputated. And that's what had happened. I guess he got in the mosh pit. They yanked his legs and started tossing him around. And he was left on his 2 stumps, man. And I'm not, I wish that, I wish that was untrue, but honest to God, that is a real story that has been
Oh
just
my God.
in my brain. Just I didn't know how to process it, Jason. I had no idea. I'm just, dude, what were you thinking? Just and as you get older, you start thinking about these things, and I'll never forget, like, on the verge of me turning 30. That's how old I am. I went to go see a concert with this heavy metal band in Fort Worth called Trivium. They were awesome. I still love these guys. A lot of this, it's almost like a symphony hearing them play the guitar. And I just remember standing outside in the line waiting for the doors to open. And there's this bald dude like walking around, very angry look on his face. And he's just, and it's like he's sizing up everybody as he's going, walking around the building, looking at everybody. I'm like, oh my God. And I knew I was getting old right at that moment because I started thinking to myself, is my insurance going to cover this? And I'm like, oh my, I don't even know if I want to go in there. So I always try to stay like on the ring of the mosh pits that happen.
Sure.
And I've always been kind of a big dude, not, I don't have to really worry about people pushing me in, but I'll catch people, get them back up or whatever, and try to stop fights and all that stuff. Man, dude, just some of the stuff that I've seen here has just been absolutely bonkers, absolutely crazy. But I will never forget that guy with the stumps, man. I'll never forget that.
Well, it's funny you say that because golf was like saying nowadays people would just do a mean tweet about stuff. They would never, mosh pits and fighting and all that. You probably ain't gonna see that much anymore. They'll go on their Instagram or their Twitter and do a mean tweet about you or whatever. But I was gonna say, like, Henry S. mentioned Joy Division. I remember them.
Yeah.
Buck 09, Suicide Machine, Less Than Jake. I love Less Than Jake.
Yep, I remember a lot of
there's a band called 5 Iron Frenzy, OC Supertones I liked growing up. The Specials. I like ska a lot, actually, too. So I was a big fan of ska.
Yeah.
So I hear you all. Now, let me ask you this real quick, dude. Have you ever heard of a group or a guy called Joy Electric?
No.
His music is like very 90s as well, but it's like a Christian. He's a Christian singer, but he plays nothing but synthesizer music, and it sounds like video games.
Okay.
And it's awesome. And then he has a brother in a band called Starflyer 59, and that's a good group there. You might check them out if you haven't. It's very unique, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, what's up, Jeremiah? Have you been going through my MP3 player? Yes. MP3 players, bring them out, buddy. Oh, what golf likes the specials too.
Yeah, I remember seeing
any more records you want to show off?
Rob Zombie's new one. You were talking about colored vinyl.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm not really impressed with the album itself, but kind of cool to have. I have one final album to show, and it's probably my favorite metal album of the 90s. Some even called it alternative metal. Because the cool thing about this album is it was produced by a guy named Terry Date, who also produced guys like Pantera. Pantera is from here. In fact,
Pantera.
Dom and Vinny are buried right here by me. So, and they got another guy to do the programming because this was in '95. Got this gentleman by the name of Charlie Clouser, who was in Nine Inch Nails. I think he does like the theme for CSI now, and does a lot of like an animal. That's the one. But I'm talking about none other than White Zombie. 1995.
Nice. That Astro Creed 3000 or whatever.
Yeah.
2000.
This album, to me, in a lot of ways, is ahead of its time because you hear turntables going off in the middle of like, drumming of heavy metal riffs and stuff like that. So, one of my favorite songs of all time, Electric Head Part 1. Then you have songs like, More Human Than Human.
More human than human. More
Yep.
human than human.
And many years ago, I even did a weird little cover of track number 9, El Phantasmo and the Chicken Run Blastorama, which I don't know what that means. I have no idea. But
Is Living Dead Girl that record?
no, that's on Rob Zombie's first solo album, Hellbilly Deluxe.
Okay.
So, yeah. But this was the last album they did together before Rob Zombie went solo. So, yeah, man. Just some of my favorite vinyl pieces. I did not grab my Aesthetic Perfection vinyl. That one's almost like a black gray smokish looking type vinyl. It's pretty cool too. Sometimes I'm just wondering to myself with a band like that, like, man, like how are they not bigger than what they are? You ever listen to a band and you're just like, how are they not bigger than what they are? And they just keep coming out with great, fantastic music where you're just like, okay, cool. You feel like you're a part of a very special club, and that's the way that I feel about that band. But just a few of my favorite albums and stuff. I just wanted to get out here and talk a little music with you, and wanted to kind of pick your brain a little bit and see if we were kind of on the same wavelength, buddy.
Yeah, it's awesome, dude. It's cool it worked out that we were able to talk some music and show some vinyl and all that.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, we'll do this again sometime. Maybe when you get a new haul of vinyl after a few months or however long it takes you to accumulate a handful of stuff, and we'll do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not much that I get to go out and do it anymore like I used to. But whenever I do, man, I really kind of look, and I'm very, very picky. Before me and my wife moved in this house 3 years ago, I downsized my collection quite a bit. I had probably close to 1,000 pieces of vinyl, and after a chance meeting with somebody, and I got really upset, I was like, "That's it, I'm done," and I got rid of a lot of my vinyl. So, yeah, I'm just very picky with what I get now, and in some ways, if it's a collector's item, sure, yeah, I'll pick it up. Absolutely.
Sure. After this conversation, you probably inspired me to end up blowing more money on vinyl than I should do. But now I'm going to be looking. As soon as we hang up here, I'm going to go on eBay and start looking at some vinyl.
You might want to look up that Starflyer 59, because if I remember correctly, man, those guys' albums were hard to find, like in the early to mid 2000s, and a lot of those prices, man, are ridiculous if I remember correctly. But you may be able to
I bought a bunch of his 7-inches back in the day because he was still like underground a little bit.
Oh yeah,
because Jason Martin, who is the guy who Starflyer 59, his brother Ronnie is Joy Electric. Okay. And so that's how I found out about him. And they're both Christians, but Jason Martin doesn't really talk about it much in his music. I mean, he just plays music. I'm sure there's probably some songs that allude to it, of course. Sure. But like, Ronnie is a little bit more obvious about it. Sure. But I do love Starflyer 59. And then like there was like Jazz June. I really like. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they're another group that kind of was like Starflyer. Yeah. But yeah, there's a bunch of groups out there. But yeah, check out Starflyer, and if you find some, let me know.
All right, I will, man. I will. Absolutely.
All right, man. Well, thanks for hanging out.
Yes, sir, man. Glad to see you, brother. I hope you're doing well.
I will do it again sometime.
Well. Sounds good, man. All right.
Yeah, man. We're doing well, man.
All right. Good to see you, brother. Take care.
All right. See you. You too, bro.